Hello, everyone. It is Mailbag Day, and I am Matt Williamson. How is everyone doing? This will be our last normal 5-day play on Sunday week for quite a while. As I'm sure you're aware, starting with this Eagles game, the Steelers play 3 games in 11 days, which is bonkers. And I'll do everything I can to preview game. I'll definitely preview games and review games, but we probably won't be mailbagging it up or any of that kind of stuff for a while. So let's dig right in. We have some really good questions. Michael Adesso asks, Matt, how are the Steelers going to defend Philly? First off, I record this on Tuesday, and Tuesday's my heavy dig into the opponent day. This team's really good. This team's really good. But anyways, how the Steelers going to defend Philly? Stack the box to stop Saquon and put Joey on Brown and Dante on the Slim Reaper. That's Devontae Smith, by the way. I like that name. This matchup is a great test for the Steelers D and one that worries me more than Baltimore or Cincy offenses. And Michael, you're 100% right. Now, just looking at matchups, as you mentioned, yes, I think Porter goes on Brown. And Jackson, with his speed and slender build, etc., is probably more of a Smith matchup. But just in a vacuum, that favors the Eagles. You know, I mean, Brown's a top 5 receiver, and Smith is a 15th best receiver or whatever. It's nice that Goddard isn't in the equation. He is out for the remainder of the regular season. The other tight ends are fine, but if they beat you, so be it. So let's dig into the other thing, too, is I want to talk about Hurts here in a minute and all those type of things. But I think the Eagles have the best pair of offensive tackles in the league. That Lane Johnson, if you look at the best right tackle in football, to me, it's either Lane Johnson, who's going to the Hall of Fame. He's unbelievable and still is. Or it's Penei Sewell. Left tackle, Jordan Mailata now is in the conversation. He is that good. And I think he's right there with Wirfs and Trent Williams still, I would say, just out of respect, as the best left tackle on the planet. So advantages you usually have with your edge guys are at least going to be, moderate. I mean, they're going to be less than usual, let's put it that way. And their interior O-line is really good too. This is along with the Lions, the best O-line in the league. Now, I always think the Steelers front has an advantage over every O-line in the league. And that's just the nature of the positions, but less in this one than probably any game this year. That being said, I think what the Steelers do extremely well, that I talk about here enough, but I don't talk about enough, is they are a masterful pass rush plan team. And a lot of people, I've never game planned, obviously, for an NFL offense, but a lot of it, and a lot of the smartest guys out there, Belichick, great defensive coordinators, begin their planning with how are we going to rush this quarterback? What's our pass rush plan? And I think the Steelers' pass rush plan has been phenomenal this year. Now, it might not always lead to sacks, but it all stems from the opponent's fear of Watt, Hayward, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the one thing to hang your hat on in this game, the Eagles are going to score points, but Hurts has struggled from the pocket. I mean, he really has. And I'm sure the Steelers will do everything possible, much like the Lamar Jaden Daniels rules of try to get some negative plays early, maybe blitz him early on, definitely keep him in the pocket, really confine things, really boa constrictor the pocket around him. And he's been holding the ball. And while it doesn't always lead to sacks, because protection's so good and he's good at getting out of harm's way, and he's obviously a good runner, but later in the down, he starts questioning himself and not being comfortable and seeing ghosts. And I think the Steelers are one of the best teams in the league at creating that environment for a quarterback. So there's that. But, oh, by the way, they run the ball better than anybody in the league, and their running back is maybe going to break Eric Dickerson's record and is ridiculous. So they're going to score points. And I think your best saving grace is just make Hurts as uncomfortable as possible. Carolina did that quite well last week, and Carolina doesn't really have any good players on defense. So if you can do that with the Cams of the world and Bentons of the world, I mean, you'll do it a heck of a lot better than Carolina. Can't let Saquon get loose. Easier said than done. But this is a really difficult test, and you're going to stress your corners for sure. You hope that Hurts doesn't always get them the football when they're, when they're win their one-on-one matchups against Porter and Jackson, etc. But defending Philly is going to be really tough, and I think that they will do a lot of Lamar Jaden Daniels-like stuff, and we'll see how it goes. But I do think they're better equipped to do it than most teams. Really put him in a bind, put him in a blender, make him pat that football, and if he beats you from the pocket, you tip your cap to him type of thing. I mean, but this is... I just want you to be more aware. I need to be better in bringing it up. Pass rush plan. What was their pass rush plan in this game? Sometimes it's go crazy, hair on fire, hit that dude every time you can. Sometimes it's slow play it a little bit. Sometimes it's keep him in here and push the pocket, Never run past these quarterbacks. If you're an edge guy, you can't get too far upfield or they're going to tuck it and run. So they're really, really good at that. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today and get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Matt asks, am I wrong for thinking that the reason we haven't seen more of Mike Williams this year is because he's a lesser version of George Pickens? Also, this has been the reason the Steelers acquired him just in case Pickens got injured. I think you're onto something, kinda. I think they want to be a big physical football team and envisioned Pickens and Williams on the field together as a Twin Towers situation. I also think they very, very much recognize that if Pickens gets hurt, oh boy. And they got away with it against the Browns. I don't know you get away with it against these next couple teams. So Williams could do Pickens things. Mostly go balls down the sidelines, be big, end zone targets. Pickens leads the league in end zone targets. Well, he did going into last week. I assume he's still near the top. Well, he's definitely near the top. Yes. But they also want to throw a variety of personal groupings. It's an Arthur Smith thing. He likes to keep everybody fresh and have a rotation out there. And I don't think the Austins and Millers and those guys are going away, especially if Pickens misses any time. And Williams has been okay, but he also has not been a great separator. And I also think, even in Buffalo, this is an issue. I know Amari Cooper's had some injuries, but this goes back to Roman Wilson when he got hurt. It's not easy just to insert a wide receiver into the moving train, as people say. It takes a lot more time at that position for your quarterback to trust you, because a lot of these routes are option routes that you read on the fly, and I'm going to throw it to a spot where you need to be, and if we both don't read this as cover two, it ends up looking like a terrible pick, but you ran the wrong route. That kind of stuff. And timing, and how much can I lead him, and what's his speed, and all those things. And I really think the Mike Williams thing and even Preston Smith were, for this time of year, not at the trade deadline and into the playoffs. That by the playoff time, Williams should be as good as he's going to be. You know what I mean? But now he's being thrust in a little early, and it's a little frustrating. And he's also not, the most explosive type of dude. Speaking of which, Joey Bag of Donuts asked, Cordarrelle Patterson is clearly still hurt and ineffective. Why don't they bench him or at least just let him do kickoffs? I don't even know if he's good at kickoffs anymore. He might be. I mean, we've seen like 5 of them or something. So he doesn't tackle anyone on special teams. I think it is important to have a third running back active on game day. So I get that. And there is the Arthur Smith infatuation with him. That's a little harsh. But you do see a handful of snaps a game with Najee or Warren on the field and Patterson playing, quote, wide receiver. But he's the perfect example of that guy I always talk about that you want to play against. If Patterson's lining up at wide receiver, running wide receiver routes, it's kind of a win for the defense because he's never been good at it. I mean, he's okay at it, but he's not. There's a reason he got bumped from being a wide receiver. And I don't know if he's hurt or if he's old, so it's a great question. What's he really bringing to you on game day, I guess, at this stage? And if it's just kickoffs, that's not enough. I'll put Warren back there and somebody else, So he's a little frustrating. I'm going to say it's a failed experiment. There have been stretches he's looked okay, but they don't have a lot invested in him either. Skip Bittman asks, I've not heard Broderick's name mentioned the last few games. I take it he has shown improvement. Yes, I feel like I've been negligent if I have not talked about this enough, but I think he looks like a different player. I almost hesitate to say that word because it's like, now he's going to the Hall of Fame. No, since the bye. I think the bye came for him at a very much needed time, that he got his mind right a little bit. He was able to take a breath, as all these human beings have to do. He's remarkably young still. Now, he still has technical issues. He's still working through technique, especially as a protection player, but much better since the bye than before. He's not swimming anymore. The speed of the game is not overwhelming to him. He is not the problem anymore. I'm not saying he's the answer yet, but he's not the problem anymore. He's not moving at the wrong snap or not knowing who to block. And he has plenty of blocks, particularly in the run game, where you go, wow, that looks like a first-round pick. And it's certainly a first-round athlete specimen. So credit the O-line coach and the team. They seem to be supporting him well, and he had a rough stretch there, that's for sure. And he'll probably have some rough stretches going forward, but he's playing much better. Which brings us to this. I mean, probably our last question of the day. And I don't have a great answer, but Matt Sable also asked, if Fautanu can make it back for the playoffs, should the Steelers play him or stick with the continuity of the line they have? It's not an easy question. I would bet you don't mess with things unless Jones looks like a disaster again, or Moore's got a hamstring that is bugging him that he's playing through. Now, I would certainly have him active, and I would get him up to speed as quickly as possible. And I might make a 6th offensive lineman a staple of my offense and get him on the field for as many as even like 10 snaps a game, which is a lot for a 6th offensive lineman. But can you imagine him and Washington out there together on, flanking a 5-man offensive line? My hunch is it's just asking too much for a rookie to come in and know all the stuff and the speed of the game in a playoff game in Kansas City as your first time back. You know what I mean? I would probably just roll with what we have. Next year's a totally different story. I absolutely think he will be a starting offensive lineman for the Steelers from day one of training camp. We'll talk about how that shakes out, of course, but it's a nice problem to have. I love that it's still looming out here that he's potentially going to play football for the Steelers in the 2024 NFL season. That to me is exciting. And I think it will happen. I think that he will be back before they get eliminated, even if that's week 1. I don't have any inside information. I'm not a doctor. It's just kind of the hunch I get. But I wouldn't, that's why I put these two questions together. It wouldn't be like, man, the second he comes in, I'm getting Jones the heck out of the lineup. No, I'm not to that point because I think there's a lot of good things going on at right tackle right now. There's still a lot more that needs to be done, but there's a lot of good things going on. So we'll see. Great stuff as always. I'm going to dig into Eagles heavy, and yes, they're really good. And the Steelers never win there. So let's not get too excited, but I do like that Hurts pass rush plan conversation. All right, take care. Over and out.